Hello again, my fellow companions of the crest, and welcome back to Extra Time, the U.S. Men's National Team Soccer Podcast. It's time to clear some stuff up about our boy Greg. We had some comments, you all saying that I thought he was the best coach ever. We got people saying he's the worst coach ever. We got people saying he's somewhere in between. We got people saying they agree. We got people saying we don't understand football at all. It's time to put the record straight. First, if you haven't watched this video, my friend Chris and I broke down the U.S. men's hiring process for Greg Berhalter. Whether you think it's a joke or not, Chris and I didn't know a whole lot about Greg. We took a very objective look at what the U.S. credentials were for the coach they looked at hiring and whether or not we thought Greg fit those credentials at the time. But a lot of time has passed. A lot of disappointment has happened to U.S. soccer fans. Some of you are going to think I'm backtracking on my previous statements. Who knows? You're going to have to come with me into Extra Time to find out. So it's time to set the record straight. We got Greg Berhalter leading a team of whether you think it's super talented players or not talented players or anywhere in between. We gotta get on the same page here. Media calling for his head. Most fans calling for his head. Here's the thing I want to set right off we got to talk about right off the bat. It's typical. This is normally what happens. When a team performs poorly and they perform poorly for a long period of time, most of the outrage that you hear is we have to fire the coach, okay? We have heard fire the coach from day one of every single coach that the United States has ever hired, okay? I went through and watched a whole bunch of videos, which I think that you should consider watching. The Kickin' It series. The Kickin' It series does a really, really good job. They actually just recently covered Bruce Arena. They covered Bruce, Eric Winaldo, but again, objectively, whether you like the coach or not, it's worth listening to their side of the story. A little, teaser that I didn't know. He's talking to Dempsey about the failure to qualify in the 17-18 series. And he's talking about the Trinidad and Tobago game and how Trinidad was nobody. They didn't have any points. Trinidad was ready to just show up, get the game over with, and go home. But him and Dempsey both said, but our media hyped up how bad their fields were to the point where they embarrassed Trinidad. And Trinidad felt personally attacked and embarrassed. And they thought that it was like how low would the U.S. go? Like, why would they go so low to do something like this? It was disrespectful. It was unprofessional. So they came out with a vengeance. Now, could we have performed better? Sure. But getting to listen to the coaches is something that's super cool. So obviously, like when you look at that, you have Bruce Arena, whether you like him or not, whether you remember him or not, like, look, I was young. My dad remembers Bruce Arena. I really don't. I can listen to him. I can look back on the legacy. I can read some stuff. Bruce Arena currently, objectively, from the data points, from the stats, he's the one coach that I left out of my last video. And I left him out because, again, I'm trying to come from a fan perspective. I didn't get to watch him and his teams. I didn't get to do that. So if I'm coming from a fan perspective, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys something about a coach that I don't know. I would have just been doing what I'm about to do, which is I needed to do my research. I needed to look things up. I don't know what he was like, tactics-wise. I didn't watch the players on the field. I didn't. I was a wee little lad standing in my dad's friend's house watching the USA-Germany game, watching the ball hit that guy's hand, thinking to myself, we should have got a penalty kick, which crazy world. If we had the old VAR, that would have been an easy handball. The United States is getting a penalty kick, and who knows, maybe we're on to the semifinal, right? Maybe that really does. That undeniably started the first explosion into U.S. soccer. So without a doubt, it's going to be very hard for you to compare anybody to Bruce Arena, whether you like him or not. All the comments on the videos were all amazing and all the stuff. I could have been the guy to sit here and say, look, I watched the failure to qualify in the 2018 World Cup. Bruce, you're going to sit on the couch and you're going to say, I watched these players give it their all. Literally everybody that watched, all the fans, all the comments were like, these guys didn't give it their all. We're experiencing the same problem we are now. A whole bunch of players who feel like they don't have to compete for their jobs. They don't have to compete for their starting spots. And they're way too complacent and buddy-buddy with their coach. Again, come at me, attack me, say I'm, backing up on a thing. I'm going to be the person that I've always been. I'm going to say the things I always had to say. So I really recommend you check out initially the video that Chris and I did. If you haven't checked it out, it gives you an idea. We tried to very objectively look at everything. Okay. You're not going to, if you're not a Greg guy, you just go in there and just rip us apart. You're going to hate all the comments that we said. But I thought it was really important. Okay. When we grade the coaches, to look back on them and say, okay, this is what we gave them then. Where are they at now? Okay, Greg might have fit all the credentials when he got hired. Now it's time to look back at those credentials. There's a good chance he's going to get fired. I think he should get fired. Whether I like the coach or not is not relevant. He didn't deliver. He didn't perform. The team is too stagnant. We arguably have too much talent on the team. We're letting it go to waste. Okay? That being said, we have to look at it objectively. Let's go back to the grades. I gave Greg a B. I'm sure 100, 200 people stopped watching the video after they heard that. Or they just clicked through to see what I gave the grades to the coaches. And they were just like, just use a joke. This guy doesn't understand anything. Gave Greg a B. Greg, from when he took over to the World Cup, okay, B+, maybe an A-. I'm gonna maybe B+. We really kind of messed up in CONCACAF, and we probably should have crushed Canada a little bit more. But you know what? Canada had a good side. Greg Berhalter during the World Cup, C. Maybe C-. Greg Berhalter after the World Cup has been an F. Performance-wise has been a C, but we're not trying to stay stagnant, right? Okay? So I think it's important to look at it through those lenses. That if I had to give a grade for Greg's entire tenure as the men's head coach, it's a B. But he was significantly better beforehand. The expectations have gone up now. We're getting ready to go to 2026. The stakes are higher. You would have got an F before Copa America because we haven't seen any change. We haven't seen any development. I also want to say this. I'm a fan. I don't care about some of the things that you guys care about. And you don't care about some of the stuff that I care about. And that's fine. There were good. One of the comments that I really liked on the last video. Teams are judged by their wins. Okay? And it was a reality check for me. Not a reality check for me in that, I don't think teams should win. I have waited so long to watch the U.S. play soccer in a manner that I thought was soccer. I hated watching a Gucci Anyewu's generation and just boom the ball up the field and try to do something and try to get a goal on the counterattack and pack it in. Did some of those teams get results? Yeah. Like the 2006 team. They got results, man. It doesn't matter if it was pretty or not, right? I kind of want my, I want my cake and eat it too kind of person. I don't just want the United States to win. I want to win playing soccer the way the rest of the world sort of plays soccer. And I know we got to be unique, and I know we got to be interesting, and I get all that. And I also want to say it's the exact same problem that England's having right now. England's got all the talent. They can play the prettiest soccer in the world, but they make the mistakes and they don't score goals. Right? So we have to find a way to do both. And because we have to do a way to find both, and because we're talking about English soccer, what a better segue than to begin our conversation. Because speaking of English soccer, if we want to understand Greg Berhalter, where he's at, why he's at where he's at, we have to understand this man, Matt Crocker. Okay? Matt Crocker came over from Southampton FC. He was in charge of a big development academy, okay, working alongside the English national team. And he's worked with some big name players. He's worked with Gareth Bale. He worked with Sancho, I can't remember his name, and Phil Foden. These are all players that have risen through the ranks. They're really quality players. They sold and got traded for a lot of money. They're really, really quality sides. He developed Southampton's academy into what it is. Now, that's good and bad, because the good news is those names that I just named, those are big name players, and they're playing for England's national team. The bad news is we're watching England's national team, and we're having the comments of going, well, England's kind of doing what we're doing, like wasting away all their talent, right? I mean, Gareth Southgate, his job's been on the line for longer than anybody could imagine, and he didn't make it. He hadn't gone anywhere, right? And the fans have been calling for his head for forever, for a long time. Now, Gareth Southgate is also apparently like Greg Berhalter's mentor, so there's awkwardly a lot of similarities between the two programs. So the good news is he was able to grow and develop this program, and he was able to produce a lot of quality players, and he has a ton of experience building programs. The downside is not a lot of the programs that he built stayed successful, and there's an argument that they didn't get to the level that they were supposed to be at, and he's leaving to come here. So again, we talked about it a little bit in that first video. It seems like initially it was a good fit, right? We needed to build and develop U.S. soccer. We needed to do it from the academy level. This guy's got a lot of experience in the academy. His resume is super good. So as far as, who he was and what he was able to offer us, it worked out. Now, the big problem that I have with a lot of people is they come in and they just bash, and they're just well, this person's better, and you're going to say this about whoever. Okay, look. Yes, we were trying to get Jesse Marsch to be a head coach. Okay? We were trying to do it. Why don't we get Pep Guardiola? Why don't we get, we should get Jurgen Klopp. We should get, guys, what makes you think any of these people want to come coach here? Well, we have the money, give them the money. It's not about money. Some of these people aren't just going to come here just because you have the money, you could throw it at them. So, no duh. Of course we can name other people. Why don't we just go get Harry Kane to play striker for us? That's not how it works. You're not just going to get these people to do it. So you can sit here and say, give me 500 reasons why Matt Crocker was a horrible hire. Of course there's better hires than Matt Crocker. How many of them were interested in coming to the U.S. Soccer Federation, right? Think about it. These things, this stuff, soccer around the other side, we're not a thing. U.S. soccer is not a thing around the world. We are still fighting that battle. We're still fighting to have USA soccer players recognized, right? We're not a thing. We're still kind of like a joke. Our managers are kind of like a joke. It's tough for us to get in other places, right? MLS is on the rise. U.S. soccer's on the rise. We have to reconcile with the fact that this coaching position might not be as attractive as we think it is. Now, we might be able financially to entice some people to do it. We might be able to turn some things around. And look, I'll be right there with you if we go to make a bunch of decisions and they all backfire, okay? Matt Crocker's at the head of this. One of the people at the head of this. He's got to take the blame for it, take some responsibility and accountability. So I think it's really important to take a look at this, right? Who is Matt Crocker, right? What has he done? He was at Southampton from 2006 to 2013. This is an article from The Atlantic. Okay? They talk about his career starting and the different things that he did and, his targets for all these different things. He liked the projects, all this stuff. So we got Luke Shaw, who's Luke Shaw is not a great example. James Ward-Prowse, Gareth Bale, right? So we got a lot of stuff. He's part of this program. He works with a bunch of different club teams or World Cup teams. He's got the different ages. So he's overseeing national teams. He's building programs. He's splitting things into this. He returns because he wants to make it this thing. He's the head of this director of football operations. He's involved in this big playbook, right? People think he's going to fit really well because he's got the strategic planning, right? He's got all these different things. But in order to figure that out, we then have to look at, well, then what criteria did we set forth for the coach that we were going to bring in? Okay? So we have Matt Crocker here in our development and helping us get all this other stuff. He's vouching for the dude, okay? Which, that alone is making a lot of people go, oh, we should get rid of Matt Crocker too. Now, look, from a leadership stance, from a business stance, we might be in that position. We might need to just bag the whole thing and get rid of everybody and move on. That might be the reality. But what we have to identify first is we have to currently figure out, what are we doing with the coach? So this article was from 2023, right before they brought Greg back. Okay, they released this article and they said, look, this is what we're doing to try to make it a possibility. Okay, this is what we're going for. the head coach had to do a couple different things. They wanted the head coach to lead. They wanted the head coach to guide. So I don't know what the team strategy is. Own, deliver, and measure the team strategy. Now, is this the team strategy that the coach puts in? Is this a team strategy that like U.S. Soccer's put in? Accountable for season planning, game schedules, responsible for camp, tournament briefs, overseeing technical program, right? Being part of the leadership team, supporting squad auditing and player scouting. So there's a lot of stuff in here that you're like a part of, but there's a lot of other people that are integrated with it. And it's kind of tough to have any idea how much of it is you and how much of it is like the team of people and the group of people that you're with. Okay. Responsible for tournament debriefs, ambassador for sponsor activities, create and maintain positive media. Okay, so there are some of these pieces that we could argue before maybe he was doing okay or he was doing fine. Since the World Cup, not so much, right? Since he's come back, not so much. So squad selection, I would say the squad selection has been fine. I think it's been less about the players that are making his squads and more about the mentality of the players in the camps. So what are we doing, right, to get our players more engaged, to get our players more motivated, right? We need to get away from either showing up to games crazy arrogant or showing up to games terrified. Okay, during the Copa America tournament, one of the things that you'll notice from Canada is when Canada stepped on the field against Venezuela in that quarterfinal, they're excited. They believe they deserve to be there in a manner that is healthy, in a manner that is understandable, right? It's not too much, and it's not like, hey, we did it, right? I mean, I listened to in some of the kicking it things, like Eric Wijnaldum when he got interviewed. And again, if you haven't listened to these, I think they're worth listening to just from a USA Soccer perspective. I don't really like the videos themselves. I think the editing is weird, and they have like really weird breaks where like they'll ask a question and they just go to music for no reason. So that's kind of strange. But listening to their experiences is powerful. I mean, Eric Wijnaldum said that the World Cup that they qualified for, like half the team was like, hey, we got there, we're done, right? Like they were prepared to go 0-3 in the group stage and just go home, and they were like, World Cup qualifying was enough. And that's a very real thing. So having a coach and having a manager who is able to put a realistic expectation on the team, and I don't mean realistic as in like we should look at our squad and say, guys, like, look, we're lucky to get out of the group stage. I'm saying presenting a vision that feels attainable and feels realistic, right? The goal for US in 2026 is to win the World Cup, okay? That's the goal of every team that shows up. Now, yes, the likelihood is another story. Yes, the odds are another story. But the goal is to win the World Cup. You need a head coach who can go in there and present a strategy and lead a group of players to at least believe that if we commit and we all play together, we have a shot. It might be a long shot, but we have a shot. Look, Morocco got to a semifinal. Okay, Croatia's getting in there. Some of these teams are grinding out games and playing in penalty shootouts and getting there. We need results, and we need to have a manager in there that is able to do that. So this one, the creating and maintaining a positive media profile, I mean, Greg got an F for the way that he handled the Giovanni Reyna situation. Now, the Reynas, not Gio, the Reynas got an F. I mean, not even really a grade, right? You're doing youth soccer stuff at the literal senior level of soccer. Greg, how did you not know that no matter what you're speaking at, no matter where you're at, you are the U.S. men's soccer coach? You're going to get recorded, okay? So his comments were unprofessional. His comments were unacceptable, okay? That's not a good look. That's really not a good look for what we need, right? And then coaching, education events, and regularly updates the board and leadership team. There's an argument that this is where we're failing, right? Or maybe it's going to be like the biggest piece to getting us a new coach, because if Greg has to show up to the leadership team and just keep talking about stuff, then they might fail to see the vision, and they might be like, hey, we got to do this. So here are the competencies that they were looking for, okay? Vision-led identity that I talked about, right? Genuinely lives, knows, and understands the purpose and vision of the organization and incorporates it in their daily work on and off the field. U.S. Fires are aligned to U.S. Soccer. It's really tough to say like no to that as you listen to my dogs beat the snot out of each other in the background, because my wife's out of the house, and so here you go. You get my dogs fighting each other right at my feet. We can sit here and say, oh, his values aren't or not. We're not in the back. meetings. We don't know the conversations that U.S. Soccer's had. We don't really, we can speculate and we can read the articles in the media. This one, to me, is more in here. Like, I'm not under the impression that the players are, I'm going to say, behind the right vision. They're clearly behind Greg. They say it all the time. Like, they love this dude. They'd run through walls through him. These are all quotes. But that might not be the right vision. Relationships. This is another big area of criticism. We know that Greg has great relationships with his players. The question becomes, is that good? Like, having good relationships is obviously good. You want to have good relationships with your players, but you want to have it from a professional, respectful level. You want the players on the field to play for you because they respect you and they have a healthy fear for you, right? Not because they're like, hey, man, like, I like this dude. I can make all the mistakes that I want, and he always gives me a second chance. It's like, well, what is that saying to the guys on the bench? Those guys are they motivated to bust their butt? So when I was a senior for my high school team, I was a nobody. We played in like a B, Division II school. We won our section. We won our region championship or our section championship. But before the tournament started, right before the section tournament started and the regular season was coming to an end, one day after practice, I walked over to like 8 guys that were on the bench of my team, and I thanked them. And I said, I know that this has to be hard for you to sit here game after game, busting your butts in practice, wanting to be on the field, right? Believing that you're not going to get a starting spot, that you're not going to make it. But I need you to know that I can't do the things on the field that I'm doing if I don't have you. Because if I don't have somebody to practice with, if I don't have somebody to compete against, I can't get better. So I need you to come to practice every day, killing yourself, right? Absolutely killing yourself trying to get there. These guys are going ham. Absolutely killing yourself trying to get there because it makes me a better player. It makes the team a better player. And you don't know that you won't get a shot. You don't know that somebody on the field won't slip up, they won't make a mistake, and all the effort that you've put in will pay off. And as a coach, you need a coach who can have those ties to the players and can lead the players like that, okay? Here's something where we're really starting to see that, like, it's not really coming together, okay? Effective planning has the ability to organize, delegate, and plan long-term vision and strategies, okay? Again, Greg's grade that I gave him before the World Cup, I would have given him an A for planning. Whatever he got his goal done, okay? We were playing pretty. We were knocking the ball around. We were getting better results. We were the kings of CONCACAF. We were ready to take the next step, okay? We were ready to take that next step. That's where a lot of the issues came in, because I was one of those people when I was talking to my friends. I liked Greg, but the Netherlands game revealed that I just don't think he had what it takes to get us to that next level. If that's where we wanted to stay, stagnant as a nation, where we're going to play pretty and we're going to knock the ball around and we're going to dominate CONCACAF teams for the most part, we're still going to lose here and there, and we never really want to get any better, then, like, Greg's a great guy. But Greg's, to me, seemed like the right stepping stone. He got the players there. He brought in a bunch of players from out of camp. He got the camaraderie. He got the brotherhood. He got the unity. And then what? We didn't go anywhere. So good. You got all the players together. Everybody's passionate. Everybody's behind it. There's this big vision. We have the right media support. We've been able to look past the 2018 failure. But now we got to go forward. And he's just not a coach that's shown us, even objectively. Again, you could love Greg. He hasn't shown us that he is capable of taking the next step tactically, because our players haven't been able to evolve and he has not been able to evolve. Okay. So I think for all of these things, this one, let's just recap. This is kind of a non-factor. I just think it's the wrong one. He has done a great job building relationships. Whether you like the relationships or not, whether you think they're healthy or not, that's not what this says. Greg has built effective, supportive, and long-lasting relationships with players, staff, and clubs. Okay? He has. Doesn't matter if they're the wrong ones. This is their credentials. This is what it says. This is where we know that he has failed. He had a great long-term vision beforehand, but clearly whatever plan you have for us for the next 4 years, you drop the ball really quickly, and we have to start making some changes. Okay? Regulating their own behavior by understanding self in a variety of situations and models. Is Greg's past really going to affect this? We've heard stories that apparently he gets upset and knocks his head into walls or something like that, but I haven't really heard any of that from the players, so he's a weird dude for sure. This one kind of seems like maybe it's like a non-factor. Is this, it's like, sure, right? It's like, oh, you're going to be a police officer. Like you're a cop because you want to stop crime. And it's like, well, yeah, like that's the job. So being able to like regulate yourself and like not be a total jerk and like blow up on people, that kind of seems like you had to do that. That's like a weird thing to have in here, right? Feedback from a position of trust. Obviously, this one got really tarnished when he was caught making those things. We know that we've had to deal with it. The Geo situation, him rebuilding trust throughout the players. There's been a lot of talk of that. It's something that should have gone away a while ago. Okay, I like that, oh, the trust is back and the camaraderie and the players and whatever, and it's all good. Man, the World Cup Netherlands game was so long ago. This has taken way too long. The media shouldn't be covering it. We should have gotten past this by now, and we haven't. Okay, we're just not there, and I think that begs the question of how much trust there really is, and how many of the players really trust him and really want him there, or is it just the players the media is talking to? Like, is it just the Christians and the Adams and the McKinneys and stuff like that? Okay, I think this one is unanimously the easiest one for everybody. This is an F. Like, this is an area that I would highlight. Okay, if there was like one reason why to fire Greg, it would be this: you're not a decisive decision maker. And the Panama game and the Uruguay game and even the Bolivia game, they were evident of this. Okay, here's my biggest flaw on Greg. Okay, so if you're gonna listen to anything that I have to say, this is my number one flaw on Greg, as reflected in the men's team. No matter what happens in the USA games, as soon as the first thing happens, whatever that thing is, we lose our shape and we lose our ability to play the game. Our identity disappears. If you go back and watch games, when Jamaica scored on us in the first 5 minutes, we had no idea what to do, right? You punched us in the mouth and we gave up. When we punched other teams in the mouth, we gave up. Right? Yeah, we scored 2 goals against Bolivia early, but think about how much different. We scored the first goal against Bolivia, and you were like, man, this game's going to be a blowout. And then, like, yeah, we're still possessing, like, yeah, we're still going forward, but, like, it was different. You could feel that it was different. And we've had that in tons of games. We, like, score a goal and we, like, forget what's happening, right? You know, like, so Weah gets his red card, and we, like, for a second, we were like, what do we do? We don't know what to do. And then we get this great goal on the counterattack, and Balogun scores. But then immediately after that, like, what do we do? Like, something happened. So obviously, there isn't decisive decision making. Because from a leadership stance, not only is Greg not making those decisions, he's not empowering his players to make decisions. You need players on the field who, when a moment like that happens, right when we get that goal, if the plan is to park the bus and pack it in, then you need your Tyler Adams, you need your Pulisic, you need your Ream looking at the team and saying, what the heck are you doing out there with that ball? Balogun's the only person, Christian's the only person, everybody else should be back here, 9 guys behind the ball, and that's how we're playing. We haven't seen it, okay? Another F. There's no innovation, okay? Again, maybe the first 2 years that he was in here, it was like innovation, but it was normal. It was expected innovation. You get a new manager. You get a new, like, kind of, it's like when you get a new administration, right? Whether it's the president or whatever, like, the cabinet changes. You see some innovation because you see change. Change wasn't innovation, okay? It felt like it at first, but, like, we didn't really push any boundaries other than, like, we play smooth now. Like, we play possession ball. Like, it looks cute and pretty, but the U.S. fans can only take so much of, like, the ball, we build out of the back, and then we build out of the back, and then we build out of the back, and then, like, kind of goes into the midfield, and then it goes back to the back, and then it goes into the midfield, and it goes back to the back, and, like, if it's 0-0 against Mexico in the 60th minute, Mexico doesn't have a chance, like, it feels good. Stand there holding up the flag and holding up the crest and thinking, like, yo, we're dominating Mexico, but, like, if Mexico gets 1 goal on the counterattack, and we check out, and then we just keep passing the ball through the middle and passing the ball through the middle and passing the ball through the middle, like, and we've played some games where, like, that, I mean, think about the Netherlands game. Like, the Netherlands knew what we wanted to do. I mean, technically, like, I can't remember his name, Van something, like, that coach was like, let me guess, USA is going to use their talented midfield, and they're going to possess the ball, and we're just going to strip them and beat them on the counterattack, right? And it was like, yep. And that's how they played, and it felt like Greg was like, oh, boys, we got them. Look, it's working. And it's like, no, it's working for them, right? So there hasn't been any innovation, okay? this part right here, open-minded to new ways and ideas, I don't get the impression that that's true. Okay, now I don't know because I'm not on the inside, but I'm just making this assumption that, if we haven't seen a lot of innovation right now, I highly doubt there's a new way to play, because I felt like there was maybe slightly new ways that were getting played when Callahan was in and Greg was out, but now we're kind of back to it. And you even heard people making comments when they had announced that Greg was back, that next game, it felt like Callahan played a lineup that was a lot more Greg-like, and the tactics were more Greg-like, which was super weird. As far as passionate development, right? I don't know if Greg's got a genuine desire. I mean, I would have to say yes. Like, I don't have any reason to believe that Greg isn't out there trying to help people get better. And he's not at least attempting to, like, better U.S. soccer. Has he bettered U.S. soccer? Recently, no. But this isn't saying, like, they've done that, right? This is saying they have the desire. So this is, like, pretty subjective, and it's tough to do that. So if you're looking at, what we need from the competencies of the head coach, kind of a non-factor. This is good. This is no, right? Meh. Sure, fine. Potential, like, I don't really know. So we're not doing great, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of these 5, like, one of them is good, right? And the others are, like, one of them is good, 2 of them are bad, and the others are meh. And then these the 2 of the bottom 3. Okay, so out of the 8 competencies, you're looking at 4 of them are extremely negative, 2 of them are meh, and then 2 of them are good. So Greg's not scoring well in head coach competencies, at least in my opinion, if I'm objectively looking at what U.S. Soccer is hoping to bring in, right? So this is all the data that they're using for this, right? Like the stats, the win percentages and stuff. I think it's important to see these and to have an idea that this is what they're looking for, because if those are the metrics that they're using, if they're looking at tactical metrics, well, we're playing a solidified tactic, even if it's not working. If they're looking at stats of the team, well, he's brought in the youngest set of teams. Like, these players are all going to develop together. They're not just going to play in the last World Cup, but they're going to play in this World Cup, and they're probably going to play together in the next World Cup. And then win percentage. Like, I think he had the highest out of all the coaches. Now, obviously, like, you can pad your stats because you just play a bunch of bogus teams, and of course your win percentage is going to be up. Like, we want to win percentage up against top 25 teams. We want to win percentage. So, like, research, like, what, the media? Come on, like, the media's half the problem. It's the reason that I'm doing this. So, I don't know if these are the things that we want to see. And then, like, we're able to, Crocker said, like, we don't want to do this anymore of a couple individuals' gut feelings. Okay. We want to do this through a data collection and coaches that fit and, have this robust set of competencies and all this stuff. So, like, again, is this what if we're looking at Greg right now and you're looking at, is Greg the fit for next year? I think objectively it's easy to say no. Okay. And I think we're going to have a lot more questions, and I know it's supposed to be coming out. I think they should be making the announcement today, tomorrow, or Thursday. So this video could just be a complete moot point, because I could put this video up and you could watch it and they could have already terminated Greg, right? If they haven't, and you're watching this and Greg is still, it's up for debate and they haven't made the announcement yet, objectively, U.S. Soccer needs to let Greg go based on their own credentials, okay? Based on the own competencies that they've let out, okay? Greg just can't meet it. I would love to know their new process, if they have one. This is what they released. This is what we have out. This is the only data we have to do it. So as fans, obviously we want results. Greg wasn't able to deliver those results. Based on their competencies, he can't do it. We got to go somewhere. Okay? We just have to. So whether you agree with me, disagree with me, please, I'd love to know your comments down there below. And hey, if they don't, then you at least know that U.S. Soccer might not be standing behind a lot of their values and a lot of their competencies, and we're going to have more questions than we have answers. So, again, hopefully you're enjoying the Copa America tournament as much as you can without U.S. Soccer being in there. I really appreciate everybody tuning in and checking out the video. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and leave a comment. I don't care if you tear me apart. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for it. And I will see you on the next episode of Extra Time.